Hello and welcome to the Empty Neststeaders this week. My name is Stacy, and this week's video we're going to show you the garden and where we're at so far. It is is it the middle of July already? And so things are in full swing here, even though we got what I would say is a kind of late start, but I just want to show you how we're coming along on everything. And also I'm going to wrap this video up with a little surprise, some really exciting things that are coming to the homestead. Alrighty, we call this garden number 1. We probably need a better name for it, I don't know. Garden number 2, I'll show you in a minute where we're coming with that. But here's our garden, where we've got the things that we've planted this year. Everything is in this garden. So let me take you down here. I have, I think, 5 kinds of tomatoes planted in this area, and we use cattle panels to kind of tie those up, and you can see that works pretty well. We've got everything for the most part staying up. You can kind of push, like I've done here, you can kind of push the vines through, or there are places where we've taken some ties and tied them up. So either one of those things works just fine for tomatoes. Most people use tomato cages. That's fine if that's what you like to use. We just find that this seems to work better. Gives you a little more freedom, and they can grow up and you can get to the tomatoes a little easier, I think. But we've got, let me show you this little guy here. This little tomato plant here, you know, he comes up to about right here, like the second rung. And then if you notice, the other tomatoes are up above the top. Well, the reason we think this little guy is not doing so well is because of this tree right here, which is a walnut tree. And gardens do not do well near walnut trees. We are religious about picking up walnuts as they fall and keeping them from making the ground real acidic, but that tree still has roots, and it's still close enough that I think it's affecting this corner of the garden. But I mean, even this little plant has some little tomatoes on it, so it's not all lost. Now you may ask, what kind of tomatoes have I planted? That is a very good question. I am going to put the types of tomatoes that I've planted up on the screen here in a second. These are really pretty. They're like a striped red and yellow tomato. So those are just about ripe. That's what those are supposed to look like. I know I have some beefsteak tomatoes. And I think most of the other tomatoes I planted, these right here, I believe, are my yellow tomatoes. And you may wonder why I don't know what I planted where, but that's because I'm so unorganized. And I was in such a hurry to get things planted that we threw things out here. This looks like classic beefsteak here. I got the, well, see there's one of my signs. So the next 3 are beefsteak, I know that much. Oh yes, look here. My husband has fixed these things for me. Y4, that means the next 4 are yellow tomatoes. Well, I know what a few of them are. Go to the next row. Let's go between these 2 rows here. I know these are some cherry tomatoes. Not sure what kind. They are doing awesome. This is probably the Roma type tomato that I planted. And again, I don't remember what they're called, but I'm gonna give you that information in the description below. And so then I have some other big tomatoes here. Again, don't remember what kind they are. And then this kind of looks like a disaster. Like when you look down through here, there's so much stuff, but I want you to see here. That's a stray tomato plant. There's another one there. There's one. These are tomato plants that volunteered from the tomatoes that were here last year. And I thought there were like 3 or 4 of them. Well, Dave was out here counting the the volunteer tomato plants the other day, and he lost track at 20. So I believe I have 28 plants that I planted, and there's about 20 volunteers coming up. And some of them may come out if they start getting in the way of the others producing well. They're not producing anything yet. Well, a couple of them are, but for the most part, they're just kind of there. So we'll decide what to do with those when the time comes. But I guess if all else fails, I can go into the tomato business. So the next 3 rows of the garden are pepper plants. And once again, I do not know what I planted where. I do know that I planted 3 kinds of peppers, and I know what they are. I did plant bell peppers, which those are obvious. Here's one right here. You can see the bell pepper growing here. I hope you can see that. All the rest of the plants, besides the ones that are bell peppers, are one of 2 things. They're either jalapeno or not a pino. And if you're familiar with either one of those kinds of peppers, then you know that they look identical. The difference between a jalapeno and a not a pino is a jalapeno is very hot and a not a pino has no heat. So I've told Dave that he has to come out here and taste a pepper off of every plant so I can get them labeled and know which ones are which, because that's a terrible mistake to make. I started all the tomato plants and all the pepper plants that you just saw, I started inside with seeds. I have a video that I'll link right here that talks about going through my Baker Creek seed order. This is the first year that I have done that. Dave has done a few startings from seeds, and it honestly didn't go so well, but this year I started them and we had good conditions with grow lights and shelves, and we paid plenty of attention to them, and they just did phenomenal. I sold and gave away so many pepper plants and tomato plants. I had over 100 tomato plants and almost 100 pepper plants, and we had an abundance for sure. And all of those plants you can see are doing just fine out here in the garden. On the other hand, I also started some onions from seed. I started some red onions and some white onions from seed. And those are kind of pathetic. I think I have one onion here that is doing amazing and looks like it should. The others are, I mean, some are okay, but then I've got others that they just, they're pitiful. I will not get very many nice onions from this. But I also can plant some onions in the fall, and hopefully I'll do a much better job at that. The other main thing we planted this year are potatoes. So I have 9 rows of potatoes, 3 different kinds, that are coming up great. They were so full of weeds that it took me about 3 days of sweat to get all the weeds pulled out of the potatoes. And when I got them all pulled, it looks a lot nicer, obviously, and I'm sure it's much, much better for the potatoes. But I noticed after I did that these first 3 rows kind of are falling over. It's like the weeds were holding them up. But I also think that that's probably, this kind of potato probably does not take quite as long to develop. And so this may be just the beginning of the plants shriveling up, turning brown, falling over, dying, and all that kind of stuff. I do have 3 rows here and 3 rows over here that are very bright green, bushy, and look to be doing exactly what they should be doing. There are still some weeds through here, but it looks so much better than it did. So these first 3 rows of potatoes here, I'm on the other end now. I'm standing actually outside the garden, but I was looking up what kind they are. So these are a golden yellow russet potato. The 3 middle rows are a rose fin fingerling potato. And these rows over here are called something like a super early yellow potato. I'll get that exact name and put that up here too. This whole garden is, I think, somewhere around 35 feet by 18 or something like that. And We could have planted a lot more variety in here, but we like to have lots of what we plant, mainly because I don't trust myself yet, and who knows what's gonna survive. Now, I'm working on a video that tells a little bit more about exactly how we're putting this garden bed back here together. This is what we call garden number 2. The story behind this garden is we moved to this property 2 years ago, and my dad, who lives about an hour and a half away, he just turned 91. He is still very active. He still drives. He still drives here to visit every now and then. And he has been so excited about our property, and he's loving you know, the chickens and all the ideas, the bees and the gardens. And so he wanted me to have some money to do this garden that I was talking about. I, you know, had the plans all drawn up and everything. And, you know, I was talking about it, and he wanted to give me the money to do that. So he gave us enough money to cover all the costs to do this garden now rather than later. And it's taking us forever. But my goal is to have this done by August 1st so that I can do a fall planting in the garden. This garden is going to be 7 raised beds with some room in the back for corn that will keep the deer away from the corn because of the fence. It's going to have some patio pavers in the middle with a little open area to kind of sit and enjoy the garden. And I am calling this Freddie J's Garden in honor of my dad, who is so excited about everything we're doing here and has funded this garden endeavor. So without going into a lot of detail about how we're doing everything, you'll see we do have the 4 posts up for the corners. We're not going to put the fence up until we're done putting the beds in. We've got the holes dug for the fence posts. You can't see it from here, but on the other end, completely opposite, is going to be another gate. And when I said I meant gate posts here, there's going to be a gate going into the garden right here. This is the middle. So you're going to walk into the garden. There's going to be 2 large beds here. By large, I mean 4x8 beds here. You can see that white outline there. That's a 2x8 bed. It's going to be the same on the other side. There's the 2x8 and 2 4x8s, and then another 4x8 back there. And then, like I said, that area back beyond the black fabric is going to be for corn. Not this year, but next year, obviously. And then this is going to be a tiled pathway into the garden. And I don't know if you can see kind of the diagonal lines there. That's going to be the tiled area in the middle of the garden. In case you've seen this right here and wondered what's going on here, there is a PVC pipe that goes under the driveway, and it's just a drainage pipe. And so what we did last year is we pushed the hose, because all the water source is over there, and we pushed a hose through that pipe under the driveway. So the hose comes out here, and we have water access to this garden, because we did have a garden here last year. It was just a much smaller above ground, like garden number 1. But we have access to the water without having to run a hose across the driveway. And then from there, also Dave has had a blast making this drainage area, because we do have water stand in this area where we're putting the raised bed garden when it rains hard. He's got it all smoothed out. It probably will not do that anymore, but it has a place to drain over here, plus anything that does drain, well, we got to get that cleaned out, but if things drain from here. So anyway, that will hopefully keep from pooling water over here. But there's going to be we're going to be putting wood chips along the pathways, and it's going to be raised beds in this area. So, and then the pavers. So really, standing water shouldn't be an issue anyway. So as we take a walk out back for me to share the surprise with you, you'll see here along the driveway, we've got all of the garden beds that are going to be sitting in that raised garden bed. We've finally got them put together. We're going to be putting the tops on them after they go in the garden, and that'll be part of the garden build series. We'll show you why. But today we're working on finishing cutting those, and we're going to spray polyurethane the outsides of these. It is treated wood, but we're going to spray polyurethane them just to help with endurance throughout the weather. And as I've said before in the garden build videos, the inside of these are going to be wrapped inside with the metal roofing. So our garden dirt and vegetables are not going to touch the treated wood. Let me throw this in here too. We've got this pile of wood chips and a pile of wood. And if you've not heard of this, if you need wood chips, I don't know if this is everywhere or not. I know it's a lot of places. You can get online and go to chipdrop.com. I think that's correct. If it's not, I'll let you know. And sign up for companies that do tree cutting. They will come and drop their stuff at the end of the day. Now, you may not want all this wood. We will find a use for it. You don't have to take the wood. You can just have the wood chips. But if you're willing to take everything they've got, they're more likely to get to you sooner. And you just sign up and they call you the day that they're on their way. And if they get a hold of you and you say, yeah, I'll bring it, you've got wood chips and wood for free. Something just bit me. Ow. I'm sitting on the ground out here. So if you all have continued watching this video to find out what the great surprise is, I got to start with a little story, okay? And it ties into a lot of other videos, or a few other videos that I've done. So if you haven't watched those videos, there's a couple that are going to explain things a little more when I talk about this. But this past weekend, well, 2 weekends ago, you all know, if you've watched my video, that I went down to Tennessee to visit some of my friends. We lived in Tennessee for 30 years or so, and I've got some really good friends down there. And so I went to go camping with my best friends. And while I was there, I went out to visit the couple, Neil and Carol, who allowed us to live in their double wide on their property when we left camp and didn't have anywhere to live. So these people are very special to me. They are an older couple. If I'm not mistaken, they're 76 and 73, I think. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure they'll comment on here and correct me. But we went to visit them, and by we, I mean me and my best friend. Dave stayed here and took care of everything while I was gone. But I went to visit them, and a lot of what I was excited to visit them for, besides just seeing them, was I had asked her, you know, what time do you milk the goats? I'd like to see how you milk the goats, like how much milk you get, what you do with the milk. And I had seen the goats. I've helped take care of the goats there, but I never really paid close attention until I had decided that I want to have goats. And so I wanted to see more detail of how they've done their goat pens and just their routine and everything. So we went out there and had a great visit, ate supper with them and everything, and we went out to see the goats. And they have 5 goats right now. They have 3 does and 2 bucks, and I'm sure there's a different name for boy goats that have been castrated and those that have not. So you can tell me down in the description what those are. But anyway, to make it simple, 3 girls and 2 boys. The 3 does had all been bred and had babies, kids, earlier this year, and so she's milking all 3 of them. And so I got a chance to see the goats and milk the goats and just see the process. And after supper, we were just sitting around visiting, and Carol says, well, we have a proposition for you. And when somebody says that to you, you know that you need to listen. And so she basically said that her and her husband would like to have more time to travel and to do a lot of the things that they wanted to do in retirement. And she's had goats for several years, and milking them, it does kind of tie you down. You know, that's a commitment that you make, and you know, but and she has loved it. She loves her goats. She takes awesome care of her goats, but she has come to the place in her life where she's decided that she does not want to do milk goats anymore. And like I said, she loves her goats. She has a couple favorites, but her proposition to me was for an extremely fair price. She would like for me to have 2 of her girls and 1 of the boy goats. And you know, things like that, when they fall in your lap like that, and that's part of the plan anyway, you can just kind of see God orchestrating that. It kind of brought tears to my eyes when she said, I really love these goats, and the only way that I can imagine parting with them is if you have them. And that meant so much to me. We're getting goats. The plan is the beginning of October, we will go down. We've got to figure out some logistics. Something just bit me again. We've got to figure out the logistics of how to get them here. We've got some goat pens to put up and everything, but that was part of the plan. We were maybe not going to do that till next year because this garden has taken us so long, but it just means that we have to work a little bit harder and a little bit faster. And my dream of having goats is coming true, you all. I'll show you a picture here. Let me show you a picture of the goats that I'm getting. The buck's name is Leroy, and I think that's I think I would name a boy goat Leroy. It's just the perfect name. My childhood best friend, her mom and dad, their names are see, I have to stop and think of their names. It's Otis and Darlene, but we always called Otis Leroy. I don't know why, but our little group of friends, I don't know if somebody accidentally called him that one day or what, but it's stuck forever. And if I went up to him today and said, hey Leroy, he would know exactly what I was talking about, even though that's totally not his name. So it's a special name to me, and it's also a really good goat name. So we're getting Leroy, and then we're getting, well, this is the odd part. Her 3 girls, their names are Reese's, Peanut, Buttercup. Those are the 3 names. So we're getting Reese's and Buttercup. So Peanut, I don't know, maybe I'll have to find my own Peanut to make this complete again. But Reese, Buttercup, and Leroy. And I don't know how Willie feels about this. I don't know how Sadie feels about this. I think Willie's gonna love the goats. Right now he's got his butt up in the air and being a fool. But yeah, we're getting goats soon. We're getting goats soon. Really excited about this. Right now where I am sitting is going to be part of the goat yard. Let me tilt this up just a little bit. You can see the building right here with the green doors. That's the chicken coop. The bigger side of that, the side over here, is the chicken coop. The chickens are over this way. So this part of the building is separate, and right now it's a mess. It does not have a floor built into it. There's a lot of just junk in there, so that's going to need cleaned out. That's going to be their little shelter area. We're going to make a door. Ow, something just bit me again. We're going to make a door on the back side because that's the side where, gosh, I can't sit here much longer. That's the side on the back where the wind will not blow in, and they'll have good shelter. And we'll shore everything up a little bit, and of course make a milking area. I will be breeding the girls with Leroy after I get them. And next spring we'll have some kid goats, and that's when the milking will start. Wow, we're getting goats. Ah, I'm so excited. Okay, well, I'm gonna end this because I could sit and talk about getting goats for a long time, but let me let you guys go. You guys have a great week, and I hope you enjoyed seeing what my garden is doing. And I hope that you'll celebrate with me and the goats. If you have or have ever had goats, would you please leave a comment below and give me some tips, some advice, even if it's on, we've not started on the fencing yet, the building, the milking area, like anything that you know about goats that would help somebody that's never had goats. Would you please drop those in the comments below? I'd greatly appreciate it. And that's all from Willie and I. From Willie and I, we say, have a great week. Bye.